My name is Claire Whitmore, and I was 34 when my father slapped me in front of 100 guests at my brother's wedding. Not because I ruined the ceremony, not because I insulted the bride, not because I arrived late or made a scene. He slapped me because I refused to hand over the keys to my penthouse. 1 hour later, the man I called walked into that ballroom with a thin folder in his hand, and my mother's face turned pale. Then she started screaming. But that morning, I had no idea how far my family was willing to go. I arrived at the Larchmont Hotel just after 9, 3 hours before the ceremony. The ballroom looked like something from a bridal magazine, white roses climbing the pillars, gold-rimmed plates on cream linen, candles waiting to be lit along every table. My brother Ryan had always wanted a perfect wedding, or maybe my mother had wanted it for him. With Ryan, it was hard to tell where his dreams ended and hers began. I wasn't there empty-handed. I had quietly covered the deposit when the venue demanded a second payment. I had paid for the upgraded suite Ryan and Natalie would use that night. I had called in a favor to get the florist after my mother said the first arrangements looked cheap. No one mentioned any of that. Claire. My mother said the moment she saw me. She looked me up and down, stopping at my navy dress and low heels. "You look like you came from a board meeting. Good morning to you." 2. Mom. My father stood near the head table, adjusting his cufflinks like a man preparing to receive an award. "Today is Ryan's day," he said. "Try not to make everything about yourself." I almost laughed. I had spent most of my life trying to take up less space in that family. Ryan was the golden son, the miracle boy, the one who kept the family name alive. I was the daughter who worked too much, earned too much, questioned too much, and smiled too little. Inside my purse was a small set of keys, including the black key fob to my penthouse downtown. To everyone else, it was just an apartment in the sky. To me, it was proof. Proof that I had built a life no one handed me. That morning, I thought I was there to watch my little brother get married. I didn't know my parents had already decided my home would be his wedding gift. Ryan came through the side doors 20 minutes later, wearing a black tuxedo and the kind of smile people give when the world has always made room for them. My mother saw him first. "Oh, look at my boy," she whispered, already crying. My father crossed the ballroom and pulled Ryan into a hug so proud and public that several guests stopped to watch. He clapped one hand against Ryan's back and said, loud enough for 3 tables to hear, "This is the proudest day of my life." I stood beside a half-finished centerpiece, holding a box of place cards, and felt something old and familiar tighten in my chest. When I had closed the biggest deal of my career, my father had said, "Don't let it go to your head." When I bought my penthouse, my mother had asked, "Isn't that too much space for one person?" But Ryan put on a tuxedo, and suddenly the room became a shrine. Natalie arrived soon after, glowing in satin and pearls, surrounded by bridesmaids who kept adjusting her veil as if she were royalty. She was beautiful. I could admit that. Soft-spoken, polished, careful with every smile. She had the kind of sweetness my mother trusted because it never challenged anyone. "Claire," Natalie said, touching my arm. "I'm so glad you're here." "Of course. You look beautiful. Thank you." Her eyes flicked briefly toward my purse. "Your mom told me your penthouse has the most amazing view of the city." I paused. "She talks about my penthouse." Natalie laughed lightly, as if I had said something amusing. "Ryan does, too. He says standing there feels like being above everything." Something in her tone made my fingers tighten around the place cards. Before I could answer, Aunt Linda drifted over with a glass of champagne. "Claire, honey, Do you still live all alone up there? She asked. That big place must feel empty. It feels peaceful, I said. She smiled like I had missed the point. Well, Ryan and Natalie are starting a real family now. Young couples need space. Across the room, Ryan was posing for photos with my parents. My mother straightened his boutonniere. My father looked at him like a legacy made flesh. A few minutes later, Ryan came over alone. Hey, he said, lowering his voice. Don't take everyone so seriously today. I'm trying not to. He glanced toward Natalie, then back at me. You know Mom and Dad just want what's best for the family. That depends on which family member you mean. His smile faded. Claire, you've always been the strong one, he said. You don't need help the way other people do. It wasn't the first time. Over the past year, I had covered Ryan's rent twice, paid one of his emergency bills, and never once heard him tell our parents how much I had helped. There it was, the compliment that was really a bill. I looked at my little brother and realized he wasn't innocent. Maybe he hadn't planned every detail. Maybe he hadn't said the ugly parts out loud. But he knew enough, and he was still willing to let it happen. The ceremony itself was beautiful. Ryan cried when Natalie walked down the aisle. My mother sobbed into a lace handkerchief. My father stood tall beside my brother, looking as if the entire day proved something about him. I sat in the second row, not the first. That should have told me everything. After the ceremony, while the photographer gathered the bridal party outside near the garden fountain, I slipped into the hallway behind the ballroom to call my assistant. There was a delivery scheduled for my penthouse the next morning, and the building manager needed confirmation. Just have them bring it up after 10. I said, I'll be home by then. The word home settled warmly in my chest. Then I heard my father's voice from the small sitting room around the corner. She won't say no in front of 100 guests. I stopped walking. My mother answered in a low, urgent whisper. She might hesitate. Robert? Claire always has to make everything difficult. She won't, my father said. Not during the reception. Not when everyone is clapping. She's too proud to make herself look selfish. I moved closer, barely breathing. Then I heard the words that made my whole body go cold. The penthouse keys. My mother sighed. Ryan and Natalie need a proper start. Claire doesn't need that place. She has no husband, no children, no real family of her own. I pressed my back against the wall. No real family. I had heard cruel things from my parents before, but something about that sentence cut deeper than the rest. It wasn't just that they wanted my home. It was that they had already decided I didn't deserve it as much as Ryan did. My father continued, calm and certain. I'll announce it during my toast. I'll say Claire has generously decided to give them the penthouse as a wedding gift. Elaine, you cry. Ryan hugs her. The room applauds. Done. And if she refuses, then she ruins her brother's wedding in front of everyone. There it was. Not a request. A trap. I thought about the first night I had slept in that penthouse. No furniture except a mattress, one lamp, and a folding chair by the windows. I had eaten takeout on the floor and watched the city lights until midnight, unable to believe that one quiet, beautiful place belonged to me. No one in my family had come to see it. No one had brought flowers. No one had said, "We're proud of you." But now, they were ready to give it away. My hand went into my purse and closed around the key fob. Smooth, black plastic, small enough to fit in my palm, heavy enough to hold 10 years of work. I pulled out my phone and opened a message thread with Adrian Cole. the property attorney who had handled the penthouse purchase. His warning from months earlier was still there. If your family ever pressures you about the property, do not sign anything and do not hand over the keys. Call me first. I typed one sentence. You were right. They're planning to announce my penthouse as Ryan's wedding gift tonight. His reply came less than a minute later. Do not agree to anything. If they try to force you publicly, call me immediately. I looked back toward the ballroom, where music and laughter floated through the doors. Everyone else saw a wedding reception waiting to begin. I saw a stage, and I finally understood that I was not a guest. I was the sacrifice. The reception began exactly the way my mother wanted. Soft music, champagne, perfect lighting. Ryan and Natalie dancing beneath a chandelier while 100 guests smiled like they were watching the beginning of a fairy tale. I sat at table 7, not with my parents, not with the wedding party. Table 7, between a distant cousin who barely remembered my name and one of my father's business friends who spent 10 minutes asking if I was still doing real estate. After dinner, my father stood and tapped his champagne glass with a knife. The room quieted. He took the microphone from the DJ with the confidence of a man who believed every room belonged to him. Thank you all for being here, he began. Today is not only the beginning of Ryan and Natalie's marriage, it is a reminder of what family means. My hand closed around my purse. My mother looked directly at me from the head table. Her eyes were wet already, perfectly timed. My father continued, family is sacrifice. Family is love. Family is giving what we can so the next generation can begin with strength. I felt the air leave my lungs. And tonight, he said, turning toward me, Claire has decided to give Ryan and Natalie the most generous wedding gift a sister could ever offer. Every face in the ballroom turned. My father smiled wider. She is giving them the keys to her penthouse downtown so they can start their married life in a home worthy of their future. For 1 second, there was silence. Then the room burst into applause. Natalie covered her mouth with both hands. Ryan stood halfway from his chair, looking at me with an expression that tried to be grateful and nervous at the same time. My mother pressed a hand to her heart and began to cry. My father lifted the microphone again. Claire, sweetheart, come up here. Give your brother the keys. I stood slowly. The applause faded when people noticed I wasn't smiling. I did not walk to the head table. I stayed beside my chair, my purse hanging from my wrist. No, I said. The word was not loud, but it carried. My father blinked. Excuse me, I said no. I never agreed to give Ryan my home. A murmur moved through the ballroom. My mother rose from her chair. Claire, don't embarrass this family. I'm not embarrassing this family, I said. I'm refusing to be robbed in front of it. Someone gasped. Ryan stepped toward me. Claire, please, not here. I looked at him. Then you should have asked me before here. His face changed. Just a little. Enough. My father came down from the head table, still holding the microphone. You selfish girl, he said through his teeth. But the microphone caught every word. After everything this family has done for you, what family, I asked? The one that decided I didn't need a home because I don't have a husband. His face reddened. Aunt Linda whispered, Claire, don't do this. But another woman from Natalie's side said quietly, this doesn't feel right. My father heard that, too. I saw it land. He wasn't angry because I had hurt Ryan. He was angry because I had made him look small. Give me the keys, he said. No. He stepped closer. "You will not humiliate me in front of my family. Then you shouldn't have tried to take my penthouse in front of 100 guests." The slap came before anyone could move. My head turned. The ballroom went silent. My purse slipped from my wrist and hit the marble floor. The small black key fob bounced out and landed between my father's shoes and mine. No music, no whispers, no clinking glasses. Just that key fob on the floor. My father stared at his hand like he didn't recognize it. My mother stopped crying. Ryan stepped back. I bent down, picked up the key fob, and placed it back inside my purse. Then I looked at my father. "Thank you," I said, "for making this clear." I turned to Ryan. "Congratulations on your wedding." Then I walked out. Not fast, not crying, not shaking. In the hallway, behind the closed ballroom doors, I pulled out my phone and called Adrian Cole. He answered on the second ring. "Claire, they did it," I said, in front of everyone. "Did you give them anything?" "No." A pause. "Did anyone touch you?" I looked at my reflection in the glass wall across from me. My cheek was red, but my voice was steady. My father slapped me. Adrian was silent for one beat. Then he said, "Stay there. I'll be there in an hour. Bring the property documents. They're already printed." Behind me, the ballroom erupted into voices. My parents thought I had walked out defeated. They had no idea I had just stopped playing by their rules. I stayed in the hallway with the phone pressed to my ear long after Adrian ended the call. Not because I didn't know what to do, because for the first time that day, no one was telling me what I owed them. Behind the ballroom doors, voices rose and fell like waves. My mother was crying loudly enough for people in the hall to hear. My father's voice cut through hers, lower and sharper, trying to pull the room back under control. Someone said my name. Then Ryan said it again. I did not turn around. My cheek still burned, but I kept my hand away from it. I would not stand there rubbing the place where my father had hit me like a frightened child. I opened the Notes app on my phone and typed exactly what happened while every detail was still clear. Father announced I was giving Ryan and Natalie my penthouse. I refused. He demanded the keys. I refused again. He slapped me. My key fob fell on the floor. Around 100 guests witnessed it. The words looked cold on the screen, almost too simple for something that had taken 34 years to reach. A door opened behind me. I looked up and saw Maya Bennett, an old friend from college who had been invited because she worked with Natalie's cousin. She stood there in a green dress, her face pale. "Claire," she said softly. I saw everything. That almost broke me. Not the slap, not the applause before it, not even my father's face when he realized I would not obey. It was the relief of one person saying the truth out loud. "Will you remember that I asked?" Maya nodded. "Yes. If anyone asks later, I didn't give them permission. I didn't offer the penthouse. I didn't hand over the keys. You didn't," she said. "I heard you say no." I breathed in slowly. My phone buzzed. A text from Adrian. "On my way. Do not re-enter the ballroom alone. Do not let anyone take your purse." I looked down at the small black key fob in my bag. For years, that key had meant safety, privacy, peace. Tonight, my family had tried to turn it into a symbol of selfishness, but they were wrong. It was not selfish to keep the door to the life I had built. It was survival. I stood beside Maya in the hallway and waited. My parents thought I had walked out because I was ashamed. They were about to learn I had walked out because I was done being cornered. Adrian Cole arrived 58 minutes later. I saw him before my family did. He came down the hotel hallway in a dark suit, carrying a slim leather folder under one arm. Beside him was a young legal assistant holding a tablet and a sealed envelope. No entourage, no dramatic entrance, no raised voice. That was what made him terrifying. Adrian never needed to look powerful. He only needed to look prepared. "Claire," he said when he reached me. I didn't go back in. Good. His eyes moved briefly to my cheek. His expression did not change, but his voice dropped a little. "Do you want to leave now?" For 1 second, I almost said yes. I wanted my penthouse, my quiet windows, my locked door. I wanted to stand barefoot in my own kitchen and pretend this day had never happened. Then I heard my mother's voice through the ballroom doors. "She has always been dramatic," Elaine said loudly. "She wants everyone to feel sorry for her." Something inside me went still. "No," I said. "I want them to hear the truth." Adrian nodded once, then stay beside me. "Say only what you want to say." Maya walked on my other side as Adrian opened the ballroom doors. The room did not go silent all at once. It happened in pieces. First, the table closest to the door stopped talking. Then Ryan turned. Then Natalie. Then my father, standing near the head table where the microphone still lay, saw me walk back in. His face hardened. "Claire," he said, "this is not the time." Adrian stepped forward. "My name is Adrian Cole. I represent Claire Whitmore in matters related to her penthouse property." The word "represent" changed the air in the room. My father looked at Adrian like he was trying to place him. My mother placed him first. Her face went white. "No," she said. Ryan looked at her. Mom Elaine stood so fast her chair scraped against the floor. "Why is he here?" she demanded. Adrian looked at her calmly. "Mrs. Whitmore, I think you know why." That was when I understood. She had not only planned the announcement, she had tried to prepare the transfer before I ever knew there was a trap. My father turned toward her. "Elaine." "What is he talking about?" She ignored him and pointed at me. "You called a lawyer to your brother's wedding." I stepped forward just enough for everyone to hear me. "No. I called a lawyer after Dad hit me because I refused to give away my home." A few people looked down at their plates. Others looked directly at my father. Adrian placed the folder on the nearest table and opened it. "For clarity," he said, "the penthouse belongs solely to Claire Whitmore. There is no signed agreement, no transfer document, no gift letter, and no written authorization giving Ryan or Natalie any right to occupy, access, or claim that property." My father's jaw tightened. "This is a family matter." "No," Adrian said. "A family matter is a private disagreement. Publicly announcing a transfer of property without the owner's consent, then demanding her keys in front of witnesses, is not private." The room went colder. My mother's voice sharpened. "She is twisting everything." Adrian turned one page. 2 weeks ago. "My office received a call from a number registered to you, Mrs. Whitmore." The caller asked how quickly a penthouse could be transferred from an unmarried daughter to her younger brother as a wedding gift. Ryan stared at her. Natalie lowered her hand from her mouth. My father said, very quietly, "Elaine." My mother's mask broke. "I was trying to help this family," she shouted. "Claire has everything. Ryan is just starting out." What kind of sister keeps a place like that all to herself? No one clapped this time. No one comforted her. Adrian closed the folder halfway. Claire is not required to surrender her home because her success makes other people uncomfortable. For the first time that night, my mother had no graceful answer. Only rage. Only panic. Only the sound of her own plan collapsing in front of 100 guests. Adrian turned to me. "Do you want to leave, or do you want me to finish this here?" I looked at my father, then my mother, then Ryan. "Finish it here," I said. Adrian did not raise his voice. That made it worse for them. Adrian's assistant stepped out and returned with the hotel manager a few minutes later. He asked the hotel manager to preserve the hallway and ballroom security footage from that evening. He asked Maya if she would be willing to provide a written statement about what she had seen. He asked me, in front of everyone, whether I wanted all future communication about the penthouse to go through his office. "Yes," I said. My father's face darkened. "You cannot turn my son's wedding into a legal proceeding." I looked at him across the room. "You turned my home into a wedding gift without asking me." No one rushed to defend him. That silence was new. For most of my life, my parents had controlled the room before I ever opened my mouth. My mother cried, and people comforted her. My father spoke, and people believed him. Ryan looked wounded, and everyone assumed I must have done something wrong. But tonight, the pattern cracked. Guests began leaving quietly, not all at once, not dramatically. A couple from Natalie's side stood first, whispering an apology to her parents. Then one of my father's business friends slipped out without saying goodbye. A bridesmaid collected her purse and guided an elderly aunt toward the doors. The wedding was not destroyed in one explosive moment. It was deflating. That was almost worse. Natalie's father walked up to Ryan, his voice low but sharp. "Did you know about this?" Ryan looked at Natalie, then at my mother. "I thought Claire would come around," he said. Natalie stared at him. "Come around." So she never actually agreed. Ryan said nothing. That silence did more damage than any accusation I could have made. Natalie took a step back from him. Her veil hung crooked over one shoulder now. For the first time all day, she looked less like a perfect bride, and more like a woman realizing she had married into a lie. My mother tried one more time. "She has always been selfish," she said, but her voice shook. "Claire could buy another place. Ryan is starting a family." Adrian turned to her. "Claire's marital status does not reduce her property rights." My father snapped. "Stay out of this. He is in this because I asked him to be." I said. Robert looked at me then. Really looked at me. As if the daughter standing in front of him was someone he did not recognize. Maybe she was. Adrian slid one document from the folder and placed it on the table. "This letter will be formally sent tomorrow," he said. "Until then, let me be clear. No one is to contact Claire's building, her concierge, her property manager, or any representative connected to the penthouse. Any attempt to access the property without Claire's permission will be treated seriously." Ryan swallowed. "Claire, can we talk alone?" I turned to him. "Are you going to apologize, or are you going to ask again?" He looked down. There was my answer. I reached into my purse and wrapped my fingers around the key fob, the same one my father had tried to take, the same one that had hit the marble floor after he slapped me. My mother followed the movement with her eyes. "It is just a key," she whispered. "No," I said, "it is a boundary." Then I turned to Adrian. "I want all financial transfers to Ryan stopped tonight." Ryan's head lifted. My mother gasped. My father finally understood that the penthouse was not the only door closing. I walked out of the ballroom with Adrian on one side and Maya on the other, behind me. The music never started again. The next morning, I woke up in my penthouse before sunrise. For a few seconds, everything was quiet. Then I remembered the ballroom, my father's hand, the key fob hitting the marble, my mother screaming when Adrian walked in. I made coffee and stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows while the city slowly turned gold beneath me. For years, that view had felt like proof that I had survived on my own. Now it felt like something else, a line no one else was allowed to cross. By noon, Adrian's formal letter had been sent. My parents, Ryan and Natalie, were not allowed to contact my building, my concierge, or my property manager. Their names were removed from every emergency access note I had ever added out of guilt. My father texted first, "We need to talk. This has gone too far." I stared at the message for a long time before answering. "It went too far when you hit me." He did not respond until that night. "I should not have put my hands on you." It was not enough. It did not explain the ambush. It did not mention the penthouse. It did not undo 34 years of being treated like a resource instead of a daughter. But it was the first honest sentence he had ever given me. My mother's message was different. "You destroyed your brother's wedding. I hope that apartment keeps you warm." For once, I did not defend myself. A week later, Ryan finally admitted the truth. "I knew they were going to announce it. I didn't know Dad would hit you." I answered with one sentence. "You knew enough." After that, I stopped sending him money. No more rent help. No more emergency transfers. No more quiet rescues that no one thanked me for. Natalie sent a short apology 2 weeks later. "I should have asked you directly." "Yes," I replied. "You should have." I did not forgive everyone just because time passed. I did not return to the role they had written for me. I kept my keys. I kept my home. And for the first time in my life, I kept my peace.